Having wrapped up his diplomacy in France, South Korean President Yoon is now in Hanoi, Vietnam for a 3-day state visit where he'll be having a one-on-one with Vietnamese President Vo Van Thuong to elevate the bilateral partnership. And accompanying the president are more than 200 corporate leaders, including CEOs of some big-name companies. Eyes are on what their trip to Vietnam will bring. Ahead of the 70th anniversary of the Korean War armistice this weekend, we deliver stories of foreign veterans who fought for the South having gathered again in the country. It's June 22nd, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. We start in Vietnam, where South Korean President Yoon begins his 3-day state visit. He will be sitting down for a summit and meeting with the country's most powerful leaders, as well as promoting more trade with Korea. We connect live with our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young at the Korean Press Center in Hanoi. So Soo-young, the South Korean president landed in Hanoi this morning. Just fill us in on what's been happening.
Good evening, Min. Here in Hanoi, it's not just the humidity that's in the air, but anticipation as well, with President Yoon's visit making headlines here in Vietnam. It's his first state visit to a country in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. After touching down in the Vietnamese capital, he's hit the ground running, heading straight into a meeting with some 300 Korean nationals in Hanoi. He's also due to visit a Korean language education facility and attend a business expo on Korean food as well, along with a cultural event in the evening, followed by a dinner with business people. Noting that Vietnam hosts the largest number of South Korean nationals among ASEAN countries, Yoon emphasized that their role in bridging South Korea-Vietnamese ties have been crucial, and these relations have been blossoming since their establishment of diplomatic ties in 1992. Now, bilateral trade relations has increased 175-fold, with Vietnam being South Korea's third largest trading partner. Meanwhile, Korea is the largest investor in Vietnam, which is home to huge manufacturing plants of Samsung, LG, and Hyundai Motor. The president is also traveling with his largest ever business delegation of 205 corporate leaders, including the chiefs of Samsung, LG, SK, Hyundai, and Lotte, with 4 economic events on President Yoon's schedule. Now, the president has said that his visit starting Thursday will be the starting point for the next 30 years of bilateral relations.
자유평화 번영의 인도 태평양을 가꾸어 나가는 데 있어 베트남은 우리 대한민국의 핵심 협력국입니다. 지난해 수교 30주년을 맞기까지 양국 관계는 눈부신 발전을 거듭해 왔습니다.
Right, and Soo-young, in establishing the next 30 years of bilateral ties, eyes are on the summit between the South Korean and Vietnamese presidents, leaders on Friday. What can we expect here?
Right, President Yoon will be meeting his counterpart, Vo Van Thuong, on Friday, and the two are expected to have a very broad discussion, not just discussing how they're going to deepen economic ties, but other areas for future cooperation as well. Now, this comes after the two sides established a comprehensive strategic partnership last year in Seoul.
The president will emphasize that although it has a different political system as a socialist nation, Vietnam respects the international order based on norms and maintains a dependable and mutually beneficial relationship. We expect this visit to further elevate our current comprehensive strategic partnership.
Now, President Yoon, in an interview with Vietnamese media ahead of his trip, has said that Seoul intends to focus on cooperating with Hanoi, particularly in the fields of core mineral supply chains, energy, digital transformation, smart cities, and climate change response. He also mentioned cooperation in defense technology and maritime security, saying that there needs to be a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, this would inevitably raise questions about China's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea. Vietnam claims the Paracel Islands, which are being challenged by both Beijing and Taipei. Now, we're going to have to wait and see what's in the leader's statement or declaration after their meeting, but we can expect it to be rather comprehensive when it comes to expanding areas of cooperation, and at the same time, very carefully worded around sensitive regional issues. The president will hold separate talks with Nguyen Phu Thuong, who is the very powerful General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Prime Minister Van Minh Chung, and National Assembly Chair Bong Dinh Hui before attending a state dinner. I'll keep you updated on the developments, of course, but that's all from me for now. Back to you, Chongmin.
Thanks, Soo-young. That was our Oh Soo-young live in Hanoi. Moving on, accompanying the president are more than 200 corporate leaders from Korea, including some big names like Samsung, SK, and Hyundai. Adding on to the already strong business ties with Vietnam, eyes are on how this trip would yield progress. Our Lee Dae-hyun explains what to expect.
A business delegation comprised of 205 members accompanied President Yoon on his state visit to Vietnam that began Thursday, the largest yet under the current administration. They included Samsung Executive Chairman Lee Jae-yong, Chairman and CEO of SK Group Itaewon, and Hyundai Motor Group Chairman Chung Hee-sun. Now all eyes are on any investment opportunities the delegation will bring, as strengthening bilateral supply chain ties, cooperating in next-generation technology such as ICT, and participating in green energy projects are just some of the areas being considered. One company that's currently most actively operating in Vietnam is Samsung. The tech giant established construction and trading corporation offices in Hanoi in 1989, and since then it has gone on to produce smartphones, network equipment, TVs, and batteries in many cities and provinces in Vietnam. In fact, more than 50% of Samsung's smartphones are now manufactured in the country. SK Group too has a strong presence, acquiring a 16.3% stake in VinCommerce, Vietnam's biggest retailer, while investing $340 million in Crown X, the consumer retail platform of the country's Masan Group. In 2017, Hyundai Motor established Hyundai Tan Cong Manufacturing Vietnam, or HTMV, a joint venture with Tan Cong Group, and built a second HTMV manufacturing plant last year. Through this, Hyundai reclaimed its #1 spot in sales in Vietnam, beating out Toyota, which had taken over the position last year. LG moved into Vietnam in 1995 and now owns 12 incorporated firms in the country, accounting for 3% of Vietnam's GDP. Now the construction and cosmetic industries have begun seeking more opportunities in Vietnam. Daewoo E&C is planning to sign MOUs with Vietnamese companies to further its business reach, separate from the planned Korean-style city project called Star Lake City. And Colmar Korea, a pharmaceutical preparation manufacturing company, plans to expand its business into cosmetics in Vietnam, where it currently sells health supplements. Meanwhile, South Korea's largest trade surplus was with Vietnam last year, according to the Trade Ministry, recording over $34.2 billion. This was the first time Vietnam earned this title following the expansion of bilateral investment in 2022, celebrating 30 years of South Korea-Vietnam diplomatic relations. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
4 South Korean companies are embarking on their largest overseas green hydrogen project in the Middle East. POSCO Holdings, the country's biggest steelmaker, said on Thursday that an international consortium it was leading had signed a deal to build a green hydrogen plant in the capital of Oman. The plant will have an annual capacity of 220,000 tons, and the 6-member consortium will have exclusive production rights for 47 years. The 3 other South Korean firms in the consortium, holding a combined 64% stake along with POSCO, are Samsung Engineering, Korea Southern Power, and Korea East West Power. South Korea saw a current account deficit with China last year for the first time in 2 decades, while posting a surplus with the United States. The Bank of Korea said on Thursday that the country's overall current account surplus in 2022 halved from the year before to about $29.8 billion. It reported a current account deficit of $7.8 billion with China due to a fall in exports of petroleum products and chips. On the other hand, the current account surplus with the U.S. hit a record high of almost $68 billion with an on-year rise of nearly 50%. This was due to a record high goods account surplus that was driven by a rise in car exports. Kia America has charted a course onto the list of top 100 most influential companies as seen by Time magazine for its drive up the chart in EV sales in the U.S. market. Our Yoon tells us more.
Every year since 2021, Time magazine releases its annual list of 100 most influential companies split in 5 categories: leaders, disruptors, innovators, titans, and pioneers. And for the 2023 list, 3 South Korean companies have made it onto the top 100. Samsung and SK Group were listed under the titans category as smartphone trendsetters and battery makers. And Kia America made it to the top of the list in the innovators category for its unexpected race to the top of the U.S. electric vehicle sales. Kia vehicles have a new reputation. Kia America President and CEO Yoon said during an interview with Time magazine that people are surprised when they get into a Kia vehicle because it's not the Kia they remember. In 2022, 60% of its customers were new to the brand. Tesla still holds pole position in U.S. electric vehicle sales, but Kia America shed its reputation for inexpensive cars and hit a new annual sales record in 2022 with its launch of the EV6 crossover, which took the brand into second place in EV sales for most of the year in the U.S. Kia America has been harmed by last year's Inflation Reduction Act, which requires EVs to be assembled in North America in order to qualify for tax credits. But CEO Yoon says the company is gradually overcoming the challenge thanks to the tax credits offered for leasing. To stay in the race for U.S. electric vehicle dominance, Kia is planning to begin production of their newest EV, the EV9, in West Point, Georgia next year. 15 EV models are planned for Kia's global lineup by 2027. Yoon, Arirang News.
As this summer is forecast to be even hotter, there is a concern for many people here in Korea: higher electricity bills. Our Lee Soo-jin went to find out various ways to save on those bills.
This summer is expected to be the hottest yet. With spiking temperatures and rate hikes, electricity bills are expected to reach record highs. There are, however, efforts being made by communities, individual households, and the private sector to cut down on energy usage and save money. Let's go find out how this apartment complex is doing exactly that. We met with Kim Dong-chul, who's the head manager of this apartment complex that was selected as a smart energy project by the provincial office. He told us that the 22 elevators in the complex use regenerative drives.
이 회생 제동 장치라고 했고, 네, 기계실에 올라올 때는 전기에서 올라오는데 내려갈 때 그냥 내려가는 거를 내려가면서도 전기를 발전시켜 갖고 하는 거, 이런 장치예요. 공동전기로 차감이 되죠.
These regenerative drives have saved the apartment complex more than $13,000 as of last month since their installation in 2019. The solar panels installed on the complex's roofs have also helped save an additional $5,000.
10개 동 중에서 여기 나머지 10개 동 중에서 남향으로 돼 있는 박공지붕에 5개 동에 설치가 돼 있는 거죠.
We are able to save 2 to 3 times more energy compared to other apartment complexes.
But this apartment complex isn't just saving energy costs on a community level.
Residents can download an app on their phones and check in real time how much electricity they are using.
A resident of the complex said he is optimistic about his chances of successfully managing his electricity bills.
I can see how I used around 150 kilowatt hours today, and so I just have to make sure I don't exceed the 300 kilowatt hour threshold.
Another way that individual households can lower their electricity bills this summer is through the energy cashback plan that you can get by registering at KEPCO's cashback website. Online registrations for the cashback exceeded the 200,000 mark just 11 days after its launch. The government's new energy cashback, starting in July, is being offered on top of the existing basic cashback plan. If you use around 427 kilowatt-hour this summer, last year's average monthly energy usage in a 4-person household during summer, your electricity bill will come to around $62 compared to last year's $50 due to the rate hikes. But if you save just 10%, you're eligible to receive cash back totaling $3. With the $9 you've already saved just from using 10% less than last year, you'll actually end up saving nearly $12 in total this summer. If you save 30%, you'll be saving nearly $40. Energy vouchers have also been expanded this year for those who are classified as economically vulnerable. People can apply for the vouchers at any of the administrative welfare centers across the nation. We visited one of the centers ourselves to find out more.
Last year, the program was limited to recipients of medical and livelihood benefits, but this year it has been expanded to include recipients of housing and education benefits. The day we first began accepting applications, there was a huge influx.
Increasing interest in how to cut energy costs has also reached the private sector, namely department stores. The head of a solar panel installation team for Lotte department store told us that the store has plans to install solar panels at 4 more of its branches by the end of the year.
The Noan branch alone produces energy amounting to around 60 4-person households.
That's around 240,000 kilowatt-hour per year. While all the efforts being made already at various levels shows that concerns about energy costs are at an all-time high, it also raises hopes that people will be able to successfully manage their electricity bills during the upcoming peak summer months. 이수진, Arirang News.
The National Assembly's Public Administration and Security Committee has officially put on its agenda an opposition-backed special bill on last year's Itaewon crowd crush. The move, however, did not come without some heated exchanges between the ruling People Power Party and its rival, the Democratic Party of Korea. During Thursday's meeting, the ruling party accused its main opposition of politicizing the disaster, while the DP stressed that the bill would soothe the pain of the bereaved families. Vice Interior Minister Han Chang-sop, meanwhile, said he felt the bill wasn't really necessary. Now, negotiations on the bill will continue at a subcommittee in charge of reviewing it. Thursday's exchanges follow the DP's decision the day before to have the bill designated as a fast-track bill. This weekend, June 25th, marks the 73rd anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War that ended in an armistice 70 years ago. On this occasion, veterans from different countries who fought to defend South Korea's freedom and democracy gathered again in this country. Having met some of them, our Choi Soo-hyung delivers their stories.
Fight for freedom. No need to explain. This, said by foreign veterans and war-bereaved families when asked why they fought in the Korean War. A special event was held on Wednesday at the War Memorial of Korea in Seoul to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Korean War's armistice. It was originally supposed to be held in June 2020, but was delayed because of the pandemic. 47 people attended, including 6 veterans from overseas. At the Roll of Honor Hall, there was a moment of silence and the War Heroes paper wrapped the names of those they had fought in the war with.
From the career that I left in 1952 to what it is today, it's just mind-boggling. But very pleased and proud and happy that the Korean people in those 70 years have emerged as the 10th strongest economy in the world. And that is a source of joy and pleasure to all of us who served here.
Another veteran, Louis Fagan, talked about the transformation South Korea has gone through since.
I have not been back here since 1955, and this country has done so much to rebuild itself. I thought for a long time that it might not have been worth it, but I know it now that it's really worth it. You folks have done a phenomenal job.
The son of a U.S. Marine who died in combat wept while listening to his father's friends reminiscing about him.
This is such an awesome opportunity to see the results and how well the Korean people have progressed to become, I believe, the 10th largest powerhouse in the world. Worth it all. It's all worth it.
They also pointed at places on the map where the most intense battles had taken place, such as in Yanggulgun County in Gangwon-do Province, close to the border with North Korea. Officials from the War Memorial said they are going to keep inviting veterans and their families to events like this as much as possible, and said that it is our duty to remember their sacrifice.
These veterans and their legacy of protecting South Korea's freedom will never be forgotten forever. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Some parts of the Asia-Pacific are going through tough times due to development issues. Speaking to Arirang News, the head of the UN Development Program for the region says there's more to learn from South Korea, having grown as one of significant players in this arena. For more, here's our Choi Min-jung.
South Korea has grown into a significant player in the global development arena. This is according to Kani Wignaraja, Assistant Secretary General and Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific of the UN Development Program. Speaking to Arirang News in Seoul Thursday, Ms. Wignaraja pointed out the importance of learning from South Korea that you can't have development without peace and stability.
And I think the vision of the leadership of this country, that this is a country that will be very strong on development support. It's also now a member of the Security Council. So this is where this peace and development come together, right? And I think if it can show, because this country has gone through wars, it knows what it is like to hurt. It has carried that pain. And to be able to show that you can get through it and overcome it.
One issue that is of huge concern to the organization is the crises faced in countries like North Korea and Myanmar. The director touched upon North Korea's serious health issues stemming from starvation, malnutrition, and lack of access to general medicines.
It's difficult to address these very fundamental development situations in the middle of a political crisis and not being able to be there and engage.
She also said that its partnership with South Korea plays an important part in giving to those who have lost so much in Myanmar. South Korea has been investing in core resources to help the UNDP stay in countries that are desperately in need of help. Such aid is particularly important for Myanmar, as according to the UNDP data, the country is set to see 75% of its population under the poverty line if nothing is done to help. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Music by Suga of K-pop sensation BTS, along with two girl groups, Sserafim and NewJeans, have made it onto the LA Times list of 40 best songs of 2023 so far. The K-pop songs included are Haegeum by Suga, Sserafim's Eve, Psyche and the Bluebeard's Wife, and NewJeans' OMG. Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, and Miley Cyrus also have songs that made it onto the list.
Tomorrow is forecast to be mostly sunny and dry under stifling heat. An oppressive heat wave will settle in over a wide swath of South Korea. Temperatures are set to rise above the 30 degrees Celsius mark. Seoul will be around 3 degrees higher than the seasonal average at 31 degrees. A searing heat wave for parts of the south will bring hotter spells. For Gwangju, daytime conditions will be baking hot at 33. Extreme heat can lead to heat-related illnesses, so please take extra precautions. And this year's monsoon season is getting ready to start. The first round of monsoon rain will begin from Jeju Island this coming Sunday. By Monday and Tuesday next week, the entire nation will be under rainy spells. Make sure to be prepared in advance for any potential flood damage, as continuous heavy rain is expected. And sunny spells will dominate nationwide. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will be starting off at 20 degrees. Sweltering conditions are expected for the daytime. Daytime highs in Seoul will get up to 31, Chuncheon 30, Busan and Jeju will be topping out at 27. Until this weekend, conditions will stay scorching hot in Seoul with highs of 31 degrees. The extreme heat will subside next week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is News Center for this evening. Thanks for watching. A panel session coming up.